Railway Conversations with Doc Frank.
Hi, this is Doc Frank, and welcome to another episode of Railway Conversations. Today's episode is a special on the topic of mindset, which I think is very, very important, often very much underestimated, especially in our space of the railway industry. And as such, probably a rather new idea where many people just start to get their head around. So in today's episode, I'm giving you a special treat with some elements of free training from a training course that I have been developing over the last few months. The title of this training is High Capacity Railway Mindset. So this episode comes in 4 parts. In part number 1, I will give you almost the entire introduction video of this online training course. In the second part, I give you an example of one of the so-called transformation guides. That's a key part of every training module. The third part of this episode is an example from another part of each training module, which is examples of mindset shifts from what I call a legacy mindset to a high capacity mindset. This all will be clearer after you watched or listened to the introduction. And then lastly, should you be interested at the end of the training to sign up and become part of it, then there will be a little ad where I tell you more about how to sign up for this training. I hope you enjoy, and if you do, and if you like the podcast in general, including the previous episodes with interview partners, then please subscribe and please also tell a friend or two about it. They will thank you, and I thank you.
Part 1. Introduction to the High Capacity Railway Mindset Training.
I wanted to start this introduction video with welcoming you and congratulating you for being here. Congratulations for your courage to take up a brand new topic like this one, and also congratulations for your trust to go on this journey together with me or under my guidance in this training course. It's really appreciated, and I have a lot of respect for you. Now, you may wonder, how did I get into this topic of mindset? I mean, you may know, if you know me for a while, that I have been on the topic of high capacity or capacity increase for many, many years, coming predominantly from a signaling perspective. And what I found over the time, both in my training practice, talking to participants of my training courses, and also in my consulting practice, is that sometimes there are situations where a project for high capacity signaling looks almost perfect from the outside. The planning was good and solid and sound, the implementation was good, and still the outcome wasn't as per the expectations. The outcome was falling short compared to what people were hoping for. And I was wondering, why is this? Yeah, if the planning is good, if the implementation is good, what else could it be that can derail a project for high capacity signaling? And I came, by talking to people, I often came to the point that it really had to do with the mindset, the stuff that's between the ears, that certain stakeholders approached those projects with an old way of thinking that was perfectly okay for the old world where they came from of conventional signaling, but that mindset was no longer conducive for the new world of high capacity signaling, and even wider than just signaling, elevating the entire railway to a higher capacity operation. And that's the reason why I'm calling this training High Capacity Railway Mindset, and not just high capacity signaling mindset, because this mindset applies to the entire railway organization. The entire organization needs to shift from the old, a bit slower ways of conventional signaling, where signaling was really a hard constraint to higher capacity, And now all of a sudden you've got a new signaling technology enabling higher capacity, and the rest of the railway just can't quite get there because of old ways of thinking, what I call a legacy mindset. There's actually a second reason why I wanted to go into this topic, and this is the reasons I heard from railways why they are struggling with their transformation towards a higher capacity operation. I've heard this from various railways around the world. I don't want to mention names here because it may make the respective railway look bad, or they may think it may make them look bad. So I'm not disclosing any names here, but I've heard it from several railways around the world in different stages of introducing new technology. Some of them already in the process for a decade or two, and others relatively new on the path, but they all reported back that they have struggled to transform the organization from the old ways to the new ways, and it always have something to do with the way of thinking, with the mindset of the people, of the employees of the railway organization. And so that's the second reason. So we have a root cause for project failure, even though everything else seems to look perfect. And we have the issues with railway organizations transforming from the old world of conventional signaling and the capacity constraints to a new world of a higher capacity operation. Now, I wanted to go into this topic of mindset, and this is really, it's the next frontier, as I call it. It's a brand new topic. I'm not aware that anybody in the world is really researching this. At least I haven't seen any results, any studies or something like that. And I definitely have not seen any training courses on that. So this here is really most likely a words first. So I hope you appreciate this. And what it also is, it's absolutely cutting edge research. So you may ask the question, how did I research a topic that didn't really exist before or that wasn't really studied before? Now, first of all, the important thing was for me to recognize there's an issue. And also to recognize from discussions that I had, what are potential ways to overcome this issue, to turn people around from an old way of thinking to a new way of thinking. And I've done it already a few times in different projects which I worked on and in different situations with different kinds of disciplines of people. So with this training here, I really wanted to put this on a wider basis, to have something that's really applicable for anyone in the railway industry. And as you will see, there is stuff in this training course which is also relevant for you as a student in your normal life, not just in your job, in your profession or career in the railway industry. So there is one thing which makes it difficult to talk about mindset, and that's probably to do with the word mindset itself. So when you tell someone you want to talk about their mindset, they may immediately think you want to meddle with their brain. And some people basically shut down the moment they have the slightest suspicion that this may happen. Some people think this is like woo-woo, some esoteric stuff, which I can assure you it isn't. I'm not into this at all, and everything I'm going to teach you here will be very much down to earth and based on real research. And the second thing is that people may get easily defensive if you indicate that something with their way of thinking may not be 100% perfect. So they basically sit back and say, my way of thinking is perfectly all right. I've got 30 years of career in the railway industry, and it served me well, and I've made a successful career with that way of thinking, so there's no reason to change any of this. And looking back at the last 30 years or whatever long their career was, they are correct. But going forward, and facing a step change in technology and a step change in the operations of the railways associated with this technology, it may just turn out that this old way of thinking just doesn't support this new way with the new technology and the higher performance of a railway. It's like when you are a perfectly solid car mechanic. You've done car mechanics forever. You diagnosed any vehicle that came in with a problem. You found out what the reason was, no matter how long it took, and then you repaired it, and then the owners of the cars were happy when you handed them back and the problem was solved. And now you say, well, I'm just a fantastic car mechanic. I'm interested in Formula One racing, so I will just try to join a Formula One racing team, and then I can maintain and repair Formula One race cars. And they put you to the pit stop of a Formula One car. And all of a sudden you realize that everything you did before, like taking 3 hours, 4 hours, a full day of diagnosing and finding out the problem with the car, you can't afford, because the entire pit stop only lasts like 5 seconds. So this requires a complete different way of thinking. And in this car mechanic example, you may just give up and quit. And you say, you know what, I go back to my workshop where I can spend as much time as I like to diagnose the issues of cars. And there will be enough cars which are not Formula One race cars, so I just forget about this Formula One stuff and I keep doing what I've been doing all the time. Now, in a railway organization that's transforming towards high capacity, this may not be possible. Maybe for a transitional period, but not over the long term. Why? Because the entire railway has an ambition to improve to higher capacity. So during a transitional period, there may be some parts of the railway going towards higher capacity and some other parts still meddling with the old stuff. So that's fine. You may find a spot over there, a safe haven. But what if the entire railway transforms? Then the old haven will be gone over time. And if you are not prepared for the new world of a high capacity railway, you will be left behind. And this is what I don't want for you. Yeah, I want to help you with this training to identify potential issues in your mindset, assuring you that it was perfectly fine to be thinking like this in the past, but now you need to consider doing something new in order to be prepared for the future, to future-proof your position in the railway organization, to future-proof your entire career in the railways. So with that, again, I congratulate you for the courage and the trust to see and to find out what I have to offer in this training. Now, what am I offering to you in this training? As I said before, this is really cutting edge stuff. And I've studied not just plenty of books on the topic of mindset and on the topic of mindset change, but I have also done a number of training courses, paying a lot of money for that, with some of the global leaders in the field of mindset, of personality change, of high performance ways of thinking, of habit development, all this kind of stuff. So I've really done a lot of research, and mind you, I'm nowhere near done. So this is really an ongoing research where I keep finding new sources of information. I bring those sources into perspective with the stuff that I have already learned and that I've already written down, to say, okay, well, this is something that I do with you in 3 months' time, or in 6 months' time, or 9 months' time, something like that. So the way this training will be delivered is over a period of 12 months, an entire year. There are 12 modules for this training, and every month I will be releasing a new module. Always on the first of the month, there will be a new module. And each of those 12 modules consist of 3 parts. So part number 1 is a workbook that you can download. It's a PDF. And I do recommend that you download it first. Before you take any of the lessons of this module, just start with downloading the workbook. And if you have access to a printer, I would even recommend that you print it so that you have it in front of you in a hard copy, in paper. Because you will be required to fill in stuff, and you can do it in two ways. You can either have a separate notepad, but then you have the workbook maybe online even, and you have the notepad, and then you need to think about how do I bring this together. The easier way would be to just print out the workbook and then make your notes directly in the workbook. So you will see there are a few gaps in the text that you need to fill in based on what I'm teaching you in the training lessons. And there are also some additional pages for notes where you can basically do all the scribbles that you normally do during a training. And it's just a good way of learning. So that's definitely recommendable. And then once you downloaded the workbook, there are 2 lessons for every module. The first lesson, and I would really recommend that you start with this, is what I call a transformation guide. So this is not what I initially had in mind with this training, but this is something which just evolved while I was doing my studies, where I said, well, actually, I need to give my students some guidance how they can transform, how they can change their mind. What is the best practice if you want to change, but you find it difficult for whatever reason? So these transformation guides really give you step-by-step ideas and guidance how you can change. So a few examples what we want to do over the next 12 months. So I do have an outline, but it's not it's not set in stone yet, so it may change over the coming months. So therefore, I don't want to disclose everything. But something we will definitely talk about is the whole reason for a change. So how can you develop a valid reason for change? Not just, oh, my boss wants me to, but really, hey, this is where I want to go, and in order to get there, I have to change. So therefore, I want to change because I want to go there. What I will later call a compelling future. So we will be talking about this in one of those transformation guide lessons. We will talk about developing a positive state in order to prepare yourself for a change. And again, this is not like fiddling with your mind. This is just common sense recommendations that will help you putting yourself in a better place towards change. And if you trust me a bit, and if you just go along on the journey, then you may find a few things that you find very relevant, not just for your career in railways, but maybe even for some other changes in your life that you're facing. And that would be really my ultimate goal, that I give you something that's not just relevant for your workplace, that's really relevant and beneficial, useful for your entire life. And then the next lesson is about mindset shifts. So that was the initial idea of the training, that I present to you every month 5 examples of an old mindset, what I call a legacy mindset, something that I picked up during my training courses or during my consulting practice. And for each one of those 5 examples, I give you an alternative new mindset, what I call high capacity mindset. And I also give some ideas and some recommendations how you could get from the old way of thinking to the new way of thinking. So every month there will be 5 of those examples. And over a period of 12 months, I'm doing this 12 times. So over the entire course of the training, over 1 year, you will be presented with 60 examples. Now you may say, well, Frank, that's all nice and good, but why do we have to do this over a period of 12 months? Why can't we have this faster? Because I want it fast. I want it immediately. I want it all. I want it now. But I don't think that's a good idea. And I tell you why. It's not just that I haven't got the content ready. I mean, this is one of the things. I told you that I'm still doing ongoing research, and I really want to take you along on the path where you're basically surfing the wave of the latest research that I'm doing in this area. So that's one of the reasons that something I present to you in 6 months may be something that I don't even know today, that I'm just finding out over the coming months of ongoing study, of ongoing research. So I want you to participate in that. The other reason why I think it's a good idea to do it piecemeal and to have a bit of a gap in between is because it gives you the opportunity to really practice it, to really anchor it in your mind, to really wrap your head around it. So the recommendation here is, number one, use your workbooks. So I can't stress this enough. Yeah, at the beginning of each module, download the workbook, print it out or get it printed, and you really use it for your studies, not just during the training, but afterwards as well. If you pick up anything in the future where you say, well, this relates to module number 1 of this high capacity railway mindset training, you just pick up your workbook and then you add some notes. Yeah, so you start doing your own studies after the training. That's a possibility. Now, the other thing is, I really want you to use the spare time between the modules. So let's just say I drop a new module on the 1st of the month. So you have a very busy week. Let's say that's happening on a Tuesday, like the one now in August. So it's happening on a Tuesday. The new module comes out. You are curious, so you listen to a little bit, but then life takes over and you say, okay, well, let's shift this to the next weekend. So next weekend, you really sit down and you watch the lessons. You watch the transformation guide, and then you watch the examples of the mindset shifts, the 5 examples. So what I want you to do then is to really work with this. And working with this really means you need to repeat it and you need to practice it. So you've got a month or almost a month of time to watch out in your job, in your work environment, whether you find examples of those mindset patterns from some of your colleagues, maybe from yourself, by catching yourself, oh, I just said something that Frank said is legacy mindset. So, and here's a new way of thinking. So you really start thinking about the material. You may want to go back and watch the lesson again. So maybe you watch the transformation guide again after 2 weeks, so halfway into the month, to anchor it in even more. And maybe if you watch it the second time, if you're anything like me, have you watched a video before, like a movie, where you watched it twice and the second time you picked up some things that you completely missed the first time? Now guess what? The same may happen here in this training. So if you watch it a second time, you may notice things that you completely missed the first time. Yeah. So again, it helps you to understand the content of those training lessons better. And you also, there will be some exercises involved. Some of the modules I will give you some homework. So nothing fancy, nothing complicated, but something that requires a little bit of practice to develop into a habit. If this is something that you want to do, that you like to do. If you say, well, hey, this is something that could be really useful for me, maybe you want to develop, you want to integrate it into your daily routine, maybe you want to make this a new habit. And developing a new habit takes a bit of time. Some people say it's at least 3 weeks, and there we go. If you have a month at your fingertips before the next module will be dropped, so before you can be distracted from the first module by the second module coming out, and then the second module you only do half-heartedly because module number 3 is already there. So I really give you a month of time, and I really want you to use that month, not just watch the 2 lessons on the first day and then sit around doing nothing for 29 days until the next module comes out. This is not the best way for you to learn. Another thing, and this is more like an administrative housekeeping thing, once you've done a lesson, please mark it as complete. So on your training platform, which is the one where you access this welcome video here, and where you also assess all your other video lessons and you can download your workbooks, please, when you've done a lesson, mark it as complete. Some people don't do that because they say, well, if I mark it as complete, it may just disappear. It won't. Don't worry. It will stay there. So even if you mark it as complete, it's still there for you. You can still go back later and watch it again. But by marking it as complete, I will have a better visibility how you are progressing through the training. And I will check this from time to time. So just so you know, because accountability is an important thing with those online trainings. There's a certain risk that you spend the money, you purchase an online training course, and then life gets in the way and it just sits there and you're not doing anything with it. So what could happen if I notice that you are not really doing anything with the training, I may just check you and just say, hey, what's going on? How are you doing with your training? Can I help you with anything? And maybe that holds you more accountable that you actually do something with the training. Because for me personally, this is not just about selling you a training, getting your money and then be done with it. I want you to benefit from this training. But you can only benefit from this training if you actually take the training. Makes sense, right? So please go through the lessons, mark them as complete when you have watched the entire video, and then go through the months, maybe watch it again, spend some time with the lessons, think about it, I don't know, discuss them with your wife or with your colleagues at work, whatever you require to really let those lessons sink in and make it part of your future professional career, because it will be. This mindset shift will be required for your future career if your railway organization transitions towards higher capacity. So this training, if you are in a certain position of such a transforming railway, will help you to future-proof your career and make sure in those difficult times where many jobs get lost that you still have a secure career going forward. So, and lastly, this has been a very long introduction video, but I hope you appreciate it. I gave you a bit of a background why I'm doing this. I explain a bit what you're getting from this training. And I hope what you also realize is how enthusiastic I am about sharing this training content with you, this cutting edge studies, research that I'm doing. And as soon as I've done something, as I've completed something, as I've got a new set of insights, I'm going to share it with you in the next module. So if you have any questions on anything we're discussing here in the training, or if you want to give me feedback on the training, positive or negative, because I always like to improve the stuff that I'm offering you, then you can email me. And the email address is very simply, it's training@docfrank.com.au. I repeat this again, training@docfrank.com.au. And be it that you just want to say hi and the training is fantastic, thanks very much. Also, I'm happy for every email. I promise I will read every email that you send me on that channel, because I'm really, really interested in your learning success. It's the best thing that can happen to me. It really makes my day if I see that I'm helping people with my trainings. And I think this is pretty much all there was to say. So it's time now for you to go into the first training module. Remember, step number 1, download the workbook, because that's the first part in every module. Then go to the transformation guide and listen about the theory of change, and then go into the examples for mindset shifts and see how it starts fitting together. I look very much forward to taking you on this journey, and I hope we will get in touch one way or the other during this training. Thank you again for your trust, and I'll see you again in the next module.
Part 2. A short clip from a transformation guide lesson, one of 2 types of lessons in each training module.
So a growth mindset, on the other hand, is a thought model that you can continuously learn new things, which you do. So a growth mindset is a much more practicable and realistic model than a fixed mindset. The thing here, see, is this is not binary. It's nobody has 100% fixed mindset. I hope I explained this, that this is not even possible to have a 100% fixed mindset, and nobody, on the other hand, has 100% of a growth mindset either. It's binary, and it's actually situational. So the same person that pretends to have a fixed mindset and saying, well, I can't learn how a smartphone works. What they're basically saying is, I don't want to learn how a smartphone works, which is fair enough. I mean, it's up to everybody. It's free will, on that planet we have free will. But at the same time, they are very happy to learn some new things that their grandchildren may teach them. Yeah, or they learn new things, like how to create certain things, like some hobbies that they can do together with their grandchildren because they're interested. Or they want to go on a holiday to Italy. And I said, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could say at least like good day and goodbye and thank you on Italian? And so they learn a few vocabulary. So there are areas where they obviously display a growth mindset. And then there are other areas where they have a fixed mindset because they don't have the motivation. They have the motivation to learn a few words of Italian for the next holiday, but they don't have the motivation of learning about a smartphone because they just think for whatever reason they are too old for that or what have you. So for you, and especially for the objective of this training, to prepare you for a transformation to a high capacity railway, it's very important that, number one, you need to believe in your growth mindset so that you can adopt a growth mindset in certain areas of your life, specifically in this area here, to transform into what I call a high capacity mindset. And secondly, not just that you need to believe that you have or you are capable of having a growth mindset, you also need to commit and to intend to use this growth mindset in this training here.
Part 3. One example of a mindset shift from a legacy mindset to a high capacity mindset. Each training module contains 5 of such examples.
The setup of those examples is the same as you've seen it for the first 5 examples. So we start with a typical saying or a typical statement from the old legacy mindset, which is very much related to the conventional signaling system in the past. Then we have an associated statement which is more suitable for the high capacity mindset, so the new way that's conducive to high capacity signaling or high capacity railway. Then the third step would be to show you the issue that is there when the old legacy mindset is applied instead of the new high capacity mindset. And then the last and fourth point on each slide is some recommendations or suggestions how to move from the old legacy mindset towards a new high capacity mindset. Let's get into it. Example number 6 has to do with shifted capacity constraints, and you will see in a moment what I mean by that. The legacy mindset is that signaling is the dominating capacity constraint. And this is a very true statement, or at least it was a very true statement in the old world of conventional signaling, where the fixed block design with the lengths of the blocks was really a dominating constraint for higher capacity. So the signaling system was in most cases the main reason why the railway couldn't increase capacity above a certain limit. The associated statement for the high capacity mindset is that signaling is eliminated as a capacity constraint. Now, this is the extreme effect of a high capacity signaling system. So if you have something like, for example, CBTC with moving block technology, and if it's applied correctly, that means that the operational environment is really suitable for something like CBTC or also enhanced ETCS, it would mean that signaling is no longer the main constraint for higher capacity. What will happen instead is that other disciplines and other assets may become the limiting factor. So, for example, if the signaling system allows you to run more trains, but you just don't have enough rolling stock to run more trains, then the number of rolling stock, the number of trains you have would suddenly become the dominating constraint that prevents you from running higher capacity. Another example, if you do have enough rolling stock to run more trains, but the power supply system that you have for the traction power of the electric trains doesn't allow you to run more trains, then the traction power supply system would become the dominating constraint against higher capacity. I think you got the point. So the issue is that what I just mentioned, other assets or other disciplines suddenly emerge as the constraining factors for higher capacity, and they need addressing. And that's a very important thing, because many people in railways think, well, the signaling system is the main constraint. So if we get this out of the way, if we introduce a high capacity signaling, then everything will be fine and we will have higher capacity. But that's not necessarily the case, because once you remove this one constraint, the signaling system, it may be that other constraints pop up that may not allow much higher capacity than what was previously constrained by the signaling system. So, for example, I just stick with the previous example, the number of trains that you've got available and also the capabilities of the traction power system. If your signaling system limits your capacity to 20 trains per hour, but then you take signaling away, so signaling can now give you, say, 30 trains per hour, but the number of trains you have doesn't allow you to run more than 22 trains per hour. Well, then suddenly your capacity limit is now by 22. It's not at the 30 trains per hour which the signaling system would give you. That's what I meant. So the capacity increase is not only determined by the high capacity signaling system that you're introducing, but you need to check whether there are other constraints, other assets, other disciplines that suddenly become the main constraints that may be much lower than what the new high capacity signaling may give you. And these constraints need to be addressed. So if you want to run more trains, you need to purchase more trains. Ideally, you have done this early enough that you have them already available once your high capacity signaling gets into operation and gives you the capability of running more trains. Same applies to the traction power system. and to any other potential obstacle that you may have for higher capacity. So recommendations here, or suggestions I should say, a little bit softer to get towards this new high capacity mindset, is to check all the operationally relevant assets against the new capacity targets and to upgrade those assets where required. So if you say my new capacity target, the old capacity was say 20 trains per hour, and your new capacity target is 30 trains per hour, then you need to check all the assets that are relevant for this 30 train per hour operation, whether they are suitable, and if not, they need to be upgraded. So back to the rolling stock example, do you have enough rolling stocks that allows you to run 30 trains per hour? And if the answer is no, then you need to start early enough to procure additional rolling stock, additional trains, to get into a situation where you have enough trains to run 30 trains per hour at the time when the signaling system, the new one, allows you to do that. Same applies to traction power, for example. So if you say, okay, well, I want to run 30 trains per hour, my new signaling system will allow me to do that. The number of trains that I will have purchased by then will allow me to do that. What about the traction power system? Do I have enough power in that system to actually provide 30 trains per hour with enough electrical energy? And if the answer is no, then that system needs to be upgraded as well in time for when you want to run those 30 trains per hour in line with your new capacity target.
Part 4. Where can you sign up for the High Capacity Railway Mindset Training if you want more of this kind of cutting-edge training?
Hi, this is Doc Frank from the studio. I want to inform you about my latest and greatest training development, and it is all about the mindset of a high-capacity railway organization. What I found in my experience of training and consulting is that often you have projects for new technology which seem to be perfectly planned, which are very well executed, and they still don't lead to the success that was expected. And very often the reason for that is mindset. Key stakeholders that have what I call a legacy mindset, an outdated old ways of thinking, where the new technology is treated in the same way as the old one, but it's just not suitable to get the most out of the new technology. What I'm offering in this training course, which is called High Capacity Railway Mindset, is that every month there's a new training module with 5 examples of an outdated legacy mindset, the suggestion of a new mindset more suitable for a high capacity railway, and how to get from the old to the new mindset. So those modules will be repeated every month for an entire year. So in total, we are talking about 60 different examples how to get from an old mindset to a more suitable new mindset. And the cost for this is only $10 per example. So this can be paid monthly, this can be paid for a year. And then you have the usual service of an alumni community afterwards, where you can ask ongoing questions for at least 12 months after the training. You find more information and you can sign up on my training portal, docfranktraining.podia.com/mindset. I hope I see you at this training. It's really leading edge stuff. Nobody else in the world is training on this. And if you really want to explore the ultimate frontier of success in technology projects, then this is the training you need to take. Hi, it's Doc Frank again. I hope you liked today's episode. I like to keep it as simple as possible, so I only have one single request for you. If you like this podcast, please tell your friends and colleagues about it. That's all I want, because that's a service that I'm providing to the industry, and I would like as many people as possible to listen to this podcast and learn something from it. So please share. And until next time, keep it simple and bye for now. Thank you for listening.